It's the 28th of August, 2005. I'm in Basel, Switzerland, where I'm wandering the streets somewhat aimlessly during some time off from a studio session I have during a composition residency. I notice small clusters of people lining a road ahead of me, and flashes of bodies passing in front of them. I've come across runners participating in the Basel Marathon, and I spend the next hour or so watching. I'm deeply motivated and inspired by the effort and persistence I can see in their movement and faces. And I decide then and there that running a marathon is something I would dedicate myself to doing. My name is David Berezan. I'm a composer and professor of electroacoustic music, and I'm also a runner. This is part of my story with running, and you'll also hear the voices of other runners tell some of their own stories.
So I've run.
It'd be really muddy and everything would be really muddy afterwards.
Fresh air.
And this is also a story partly told by the sounds of my own running, some of the spaces and places I've run through, the sounds of my movement, my breath, my shoes. My laces. I played ice hockey in the 1970s as a young boy growing up in Canada, but I seemed to find a more natural fit in track and field. In junior and senior high school, I regularly competed in district and city track meets, 100 and 200 meters, the hurdles, 4x100 relays. But my go-to distance was 400 meters. I was somewhat surprised to find that I had a natural ability for this distance. I don't remember training very much for it, but I often placed in the top 3. I also did cross-country running, but I didn't really like it then, and I gave it up at the start of high school.
I think when I was younger, I played for a rugby team, so occasionally on weekends when I'm not training, I keep the stamina up by just kind of running in the park. I do so with my dad, and then when I stopped doing rugby, I kind of took running up more seriously as just an independent sport, so I do park run every Saturday, and then just generally maybe other times of the week going out for a run, really.
So I started about 3 to 4 years ago during my A-levels as like a way to get out and exercise, but also like de-stress.
Started running in my first year of university. My dad did a lot of running in his youth, so I thought I'd give it a go, and there was park run which happened down the road from me every Saturday morning, and I got a little bit hooked. I think it was the highlight of my week. Just really enjoyed it, as opposed to wanting to keep fit or anything. It was enjoyment.
2017, I think, that I started running like this on a treadmill, kind of longer distance. Before that I did a lot of sprinting, 100 metres and that. I was better at that.
Maybe when I was 10 and my dad was into it and went to park run every Saturday and took me along to that. And I guess even before that, all through primary school, I enjoyed the sprinting races on sports day. And then, from there, I joined the club maybe when I was like 12.
So I started running roughly about 2 years ago. Then I started to compete in races, in all kind of races like obstacle races like Spartan race and so. And I really enjoyed it, so I kept on going.
By the time I'd finished high school and started studies at the University of Calgary in 1984, I was no longer into running or anything athletic at all. My attentions had turned to other things typical of a 17-year-old. Alternative music scenes, new friends, life dramas. And life went on. I traveled in Europe and Southeast Asia. I took various jobs, more education, and a life in music and sound gradually took shape. In 2000, I started to be drawn into running again. I don't remember why exactly. I think it was more of a way to deal with my stress and moods at the time, and to bring some new focus into my life. Then followed a major life change. My relocation from Canada to the UK, and some initial tentative spells with running in Birmingham and Manchester.
I started running because I wanted to keep my body in good shape. My father runs from time to time, so I run with him. Of course, I wanted to have good marks in PE, so I ran from this reason, and I enjoy it, and it's an activity which doesn't demand a lot of, an expensive kit or a lot of stuff, so you can just buy running shoes, a shirt, shorts, and go running, whatever the weather.
I remember I used to go on jogs and stuff with my neighbour. We tried to jog. We'd do jogs after school. That didn't go. That wasn't like the most amazing jogs.
I used to play football when I was a kid, ever since the age of 5 till about 16. And I was always felt quite fit, and I was always quite slight, so I quite enjoyed running. And then I got to the age of about 14 and just sort of stopped enjoying it quite a lot. Just before I came back to university, I thought, actually, I need to get fit again because I just feel lazy. I started running a bit more regularly. Both my parents are quite keen runners. And then around Christmas last year, so Christmas 2018, my friend said, should we do a half marathon? I thought, yeah, no, we should. So I started training for that, doing about just short 3-mile, 4-mile runs about twice a week. And then just sort of progressively getting higher till we're comfortable about running about 8 miles. A few months ago, it was the Manchester Half Marathon, which I think was October. That was the furthest I'd ever ran. But yeah, no, felt good, and I've just tried to keep maintaining a bit of fitness since then. So just the odd run every now and again, but nothing too strenuous.
1, 2, 3.
I started running with my dad when I was much younger, just as a way of kind of spending time with him. I ran with him, not always regularly, schedule permitting, but I would run with him in the South Downs. Before that, it was probably in sports. I'd been playing cricket and football as a boy.
It was the time in Basel in August 2005, however, that firmly set me on the path as a runner. In part inspired by the marathon runners I saw there, some of my own running alongside the Rhine, and also by a conversation with Eric Anya, who had arranged the composition residency for me there, and who described the long runs he'd take at the time and all the benefits he gained from them. Eric was an amazing composer, teacher, and friend, who is missed dearly, and I don't know if I ever told him about his part in my path to running.
I started running when I was probably about 14, 15, and I did it because my brother did it really, and it was just a way of doing sport, and I'm not very good at group sport. Running was that, and also it was just like a way to be away from everything, I think, so just like you just go out and run.
From 2006 onwards, I started to run more regularly, gradually increasing the regularity and distances I could complete. I started running on the trails near to where I was living in Manchester, England. Mainly the Transpennine trails alongside the Mersey River that snakes its way through the southern boroughs of the city, as well as other canal and countryside trails. Running brought out health and energy, a sense of accomplishment, and a competitive streak in me. I really do enjoy passing people in the later stages of a race. And I don't so much enjoy being passed. It especially provided a window of time and space to de-stress, to problem solve, think, and plan.
Running has a meditative sort of effect in allowing your mind to sort of free itself. Even if you are thinking about the day-to-day sort of ins and outs of your life, you can take a step back and have perspective on them. And also, you can just have a very empty mind, and that's a very useful thing in the modern age, I think.
Definitely like physical fitness, that's my main way of keeping active and healthy, and then also basically with all the coursework, it's kind of nice to get out and it's a good way. It's a good excuse not to do work, yeah. It's a good distraction.
Keeping healthy, and also it's just kind of a fun thing to do, kind of outside of study.
Your energy's up, you do a good run, you feel good afterwards, you feel energised.
Yeah, it's mainly fitness, happiness, and probably some free time to do that kind of thing.
Get out, get active, and just sort of get out, get into a routine.
Just to keep fit and to relax. I find a repetitive and rhythmic element I find very relaxing.
Like I sleep better if I've gone for a run. I feel awful if I haven't gone running for a bit. It clears your head. It's just a space to think, and a sense of achievement after the run.
Reaching a sort of flow state, or being in the zone in my running, and feeling strong and ticking off the kilometers is a pretty good place to be. It doesn't always happen that way. Some sessions just plain suck. Running also became embedded in my work-related travel abroad. I ran in Karlsruhe, Stockholm, Visby, Morelia, Montreal, New York City, Bourges, Linz, Ljubljana, Daegu, and Valdivia. I especially treasured the runs in Sweden, along the Baltic coast and interior countryside of Gotland, and through the islands of Stockholm, in between my studio sessions. Central Park in New York City was also a pretty special place to run in.
I tend to go along the canals or basically further out, but I still cut in through the city. So I kind of really enjoy city centre running, just as like it's nice to see the city, and then also like the distractions of dodging people kind of makes it easier.
Countryside running, which I don't get to do unless I'm at home in Wales. But in Manchester, parks, I think it's nice to, if you're going to go out and do some physical activity, it's fresh air and a nice landscape and stuff as well.
Being able to catch a train to the peaks and go running for an entire morning. I mean, that's not running full stop, it's sort of energetic walk to the top of the hill and run down it type thing. Not much beats that.
Any park run, so the one in Manchester is really nice in Plattfields, more than roads or city. Yeah, I guess that kind of environment with other people running but not really racing.
It depends. If I'm only running like to stay healthy, I like to stay in the treadmill because I think it's safer for me. But for example, if I'm training for a race, I like to go into the woods or whatnot to try out different surface.
I enjoy running in, say, more kind of nature, whether it's park or a hood or some fields because of the fresh air. I run, of course, here in Manchester, but I don't really like running next to the road, and as I'm not local, I don't really know it here around, so I usually run by the main roads, Oxford Road, and I don't think the air is really healthy or that good as in nature, so I mostly enjoy running somewhere out of the city.
My family's home's Devon, so for the countryside, so it's an amazing place to run. Up here, found an old train line, so the Fallowfield Loop. It's like, basically a disused train line which they made into a cycle path / runway, and it's just a really nice place. You know, you get out of the like urban areas a bit and sort of into some of the greener places. So yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
I regularly run on visits to my family hometown of Calgary, Canada, especially on the trails of Fish Creek Provincial Park that I have a very strong connection with. I spent much of my boyhood here, exploring and playing. And I've also run regularly elsewhere while on holiday or visiting family. San Francisco, Berkeley, Santa Barbara, the Big Island in Hawaii, Powell River, and Haines Junction.
I like running on kind of hilly terrain usually, where it's quite uneven and it's not on road. But here it's usually around parks, like Plattfields Park near where I live in Fallowfield.
Back home, like we've got loads of country lanes and that kind of thing. Like out in parks, it's much nicer than running on the roads here.
Somewhere that has loads of different sections to the run, because psychologically I find it a lot easier if it's like broken up, and if it's broken up by environment, that helps. Especially if I'm doing that run repeatedly, and then I can kind of like start signposting how far I've gone or how to pace myself.
In like countryside lanes and parks and those kinds of places, like little roads. You can change where you want to go at any point. Like if you know the area, then it's fine. You can just go out and you don't have to plan anything. You can just go.
I eventually ran a number of 10-kilometer races, and then set my sights on the half marathon, which I first completed in a race in Edmonton in 2008, and at later times in Newcastle, Calgary, and Manchester.
The furthest I've run is Birmingham Half Marathon, and so that'd be my most memorable experience, and that was just fun, I think, and it's just good to be around other people and stuff.
So with Run Wild last year, I did one of their Thursday 10k runs where we went from the Students' Union to the Etihad Stadium in North Manchester, and that was probably the furthest I've run in such a short amount of time, and also like that's sort of a location I usually get to on the bus or the tram, and the fact that I've been able to take a route from university to there. It was tiring, yeah, but it was, it's a nice place to start off on, and it's nice to know that I am able to achieve it.
First time I did Great North, so managed to time it while I was going over Gateshead Bridge, and you had the Red Arrows fly over, so, and you just have like the entire crowd there. It's really cool.
I think my most memorable running experience would be like the first kind of big running event I did after I broke my leg a few years ago, and I'd sort of been off running for 6 or 8 weeks, and then came back and sort of was working towards doing a half marathon with my mum. So I think that's probably my most memorable, was working towards that and eventually doing that.
3 years ago now, I was in Manchester by myself over the summer, and I had my birthday. I went to Edale and I did a long run round, all the way around Edale, across all the peaks and amongst the heather and in between rocks and in the peat and everything. And it was a sunny day and it was just absolutely joyous. Yeah.
Having conquered the half marathon, I naturally then set my sights on the full, gradually increasing my long run training distances up to 35 kilometers in preparation for the full marathon distance, 42.2 kilometers or 26.2 miles. I finished my first marathon in 2009 on Whidbey Island off the Pacific Northwest coast of Washington State, running with my oldest brother Terry. We then drove back over 10 hours to Calgary, and upon arrival, we could barely walk. Sitting stationary in a car for long distances after your first marathon is not a good idea. After this, I was hooked, and annual marathons became the norm. Edmonton, Calgary, Manchester, Liverpool, and Chester. As of 2021, I've completed 14 marathons.
Yeah, it probably would be the Palestine Marathon, and yeah, getting around all that. It was 2 laps, yeah, and really enjoying it, definitely. We started off really early morning, so yeah, kind of, yeah, dawn feeling and cool air, and then yeah, as it got on, getting warmer and yeah, I guess quite dusty, and yeah, that was definitely city. It was road all the way, and there were loads of water stations and stuff.
Last year I did this trail run with my cousins. It was like a team run.
How have I ran? I've ran
every
like
one of us
cross
had to
country
run like
with the
a
school,
certain
and they
amount
take us out to the forest.
distance, and then
I can remember running,
go.
I think 10 kilometers, kilometers for the first time because I was pretty young. I think like 12 years old,
But that was when I was
and it was the first time running such
do
a
that
long
once a year.
distance.
No, you sort of dread it, but then it was
I
the first time you do it together.
wasn't running that much before, so it was really intense. At the end, I was really like on the edge of my abilities, and I can remember like really trying hard to finish that distance.
When it was snowing, I came back and my beard had completely gone white, but kind of like slanted because it was really windy and snowy the whole time I was running.
Long runs sometimes feel like self-contained mini-adventures. The advanced planning of the route, readying my kit, heading off on the journey and following familiar or unfamiliar trails and landmarks, unexpected diversions, and returning home. I've run in temperatures of minus 25 degrees Celsius, through torrential downpours, brutal headwinds, ankle-deep water, and snow. I do really prefer running in slightly warm and sunny conditions.
The first time I decided to run a 10k, and having only ever done 5ks before, which potentially was a bit of a stupid idea, so I planned a route out on Strava that took me out round. I knew there was some nice fields and stuff. It took me down a country lane that turned out not to be a country lane and actually just a field full of horses. So I got hopelessly lost with a lot of very confused looking horses. I knew there was a canal in the area, and if I could get to the canal, I knew my way home from there. So I just sort of kept running till I found it.
Of course, there have been some incredible challenges in the marathons I've run. Hitting the wall normally happens for me at around the 22-mile mark, and it can be a really awful thing to get through. The one time I seemed to not really notice it was in the 2016 Manchester Marathon, where I achieved my personal best.
Come on, David!
And then there were the ridiculous weather conditions of the legendary 2012 Manchester Marathon, or hypothermic marathon. And then, of course, there's the normal emotional and psychological ups and downs during a race. But the main thing has been enjoyment. The buzz of the start of the race, the comradeship with other runners, the exhilaration at approaching the finish line, the afterglow of endorphins, and the races where I time my pacing just right and I don't fade in the final third. Another highlight was my first, and so far only, trail marathon in 2018, alongside the Mersey River in South Manchester. This proved to be a really, really challenging run. Participating in 10-kilometer night races has also been very, very fun. I normally prefer to run alone. It is special me time. But occasionally I'll come across another runner out on the trails, and we may end up running together for a while. It's always great to connect with another runner, talk about our current session, the races we've done, a sort of swapping of war stories. When my children were very young, I'd take them out in a running buggy with me. Nothing like the added weight to increase the training effect.
Go really fast. Ready to help.
2-3 times a week will be solo. Like, I do find it easier to get my explosive training pace. Well, it's easy to actually put in the sessions I need to do. If I'm in a group doing longer runs, it's a lot easier to like push further. And
I don't usually run with other people. I have friends that I'll run with occasionally, including friends I'll go and do longer runs in the peaks. And I suppose it's like if you're going on a long walk, I guess. You'll talk occasionally, but also I guess when we're working our way up the hill, we're not too keen to waste our breath on chatting about whatever. That alone time when you have a really hectic life elsewhere is, yeah, I suppose other people might go and read a book or something, but that just to be alone,
well,
not
it helps me focus better, and I don't need
with other people
to wait for other people, because if you're running with other people, sometimes your pace is better than them, or the other way around. So you don't have to wait for people or catch up to people. So I think it's better to run alone. And when you're trying to just relax, it's better just to focus.
My mum used to go running pretty much every day with like one of her friends.
Around.
She'd go mostly with like the same person or different people, and they'd talk as they'd run. Yeah. They said that's good for your breathing to like keep a conversation up whilst you're running, and they'd go like along the seafront and then come back and chill. And that was always quite nice.
At home with my father or sometimes with my friends.
So that was nice.
But usually 2 people at maximum. I usually run for the sake of running because I enjoy running, and I like when someone joins me, but in Manchester, for example, it's hard to find someone, and I usually run. I don't plan it before, so I run when I feel like running, and this is why I usually run alone. When I run with someone, it's nice that I can talk to people, or sometimes when I run with my friends who are athletes, they are of course athletes, fitter than me, so they kind of push me to run faster, run better, to sync
I think
all
just,
my
like I said
movements.
earlier, like, gives me the chance to get away from everything else, and you could just go run. And it's kind of like when you're running, no one's going to talk to you or interrupt you or anything. You can just go.
I just can get in my own head, just think about what I often use running as thinking time.
I've listened to music while I run, as well as podcasts and audiobooks. It's the 28th of August. I became hooked on several running podcasts. I'm in Basel, and those voices and stories became my accompaniment on many a long run. But when I race, I don't listen to anything. I like to be in tune with the environment I'm running through. Other runners, conversations, spectators, energy.
I used to listen to music when running, but I found that music that had kind of a distinctive beat was almost sometimes a problem, because I don't know, I feel like I have a natural kind of running groove that I settle into, and if the music's not within a certain kind of tempo range of that, it kind of distracts me or kind of slows me down. Or so if I was listening to music when running, it would probably actually be much less rhythmic. I don't think I have a particular method of selecting. I've got a few kind of podcasts and things that I'm listening to, and I'll kind of pick whichever one I'm currently halfway through. there's an element of sort of distracting yourself from tiredness or anything like running, but also listening to a podcast sort of motivates me too.
It makes it easier for like anything over like 5 kilometers or so. It's definitely a really nice distraction. Stopping boredom as well, and then like once I like get into a rhythm of running, then it's very easy just to listen to the music. I find if I'm really struggling, then I tend to turn it off. So if like I'm at the point where I'm like finding it hard to like continue breathing or continue pushing, then I will just zone out for.
Mostly stuff with the kind of a nice beat that I can run to. Stuff with drums and bass guitars.
I do have a playlist with like upbeat, more higher tempo, kind of I guess indie rock, hip hop. What I'm into specifically that week, what I've been listening to a lot. But definitely, I won't cue it if I know it's downbeat and slow tempo.
So I listen more kind of to alternative rock. So they obviously have the playlist for that, and they give an average beats per minute of the entire playlist. So if you want to kind of do a fast workout, you'd choose a playlist that would fit you.
Mostly to get you like running to a beat, keep the speed up, and also it needs to be something very like energetic. I can only really listen to anything like 140s, so like any D&B, because it has to be that pace.
I just want something to keep me focused, like sound. I need sound. Doesn't matter if it's like pop or rock or whatever, but sometimes when I'm feeling really lazy, I usually put the AC/DC playlist, because it's like, rock kind of gives you that pump. So yeah, basically pump, or when I just want to run, noise. It doesn't matter which one.
I kind of tend to zone out quite often if I'm on longer runs and stuff, so yeah, it's like if I'm by myself, I'll have headphones on and music, just as like a distraction. I try to listen out for everything, so it's my main way of knowing if something's gonna hit me or not. But yeah, like Manchester is quite a noisy city, so I find breathing's like a major part of like trying to concentrate on that. So like if I'm doing races or anything, I won't wear any headphones just so I can listen to my breathing, and I find it easier to control.
So I do make kind of a conscious effort to focusing on the environment as a sort of a good way to keep the energy up and not get tired, if that makes sense.
I don't want to wear headphones or anything, and not that there's a huge amount to hear in the peaks, but I don't know, you do hear grouse and it is about being able to get out there and see and hear and experience that. I think when I'm intensely running, it's not so, I'm not so aware of sort of my surrounding soundscape, but when I'm when I take a break and it's more of a jog, then I'll be listening. And there are other things I listen to as well, not just the environment. I mean, my own sort of body and the sound of my footsteps and things, and that sort of, am I running correctly, or not correctly, but in a good way, pounding the ground, or am I sort of landing lightly, and all of that.
I guess I focus more on the sounds that I make rather than the sounds that I can hear.
I try to focus mainly on what's around me, like the nature, the sounds of it, and that keeps pushing me forward. So I get distracted about actually running, and I'm just focusing on trying to look at the animals or whatever. You suddenly take all of those sounds away, I would notice, but I'm not conscious at the moment that I'm listening to those sounds. But they do help me get focused and keep pushing forward.
I'd say it depends on the stage of my run, because at first I am usually like fresh and I can look around, enjoy what's around, the surroundings, nature, animals, birds. But when I run in like for a longer time, or if I run fast and I want to run some given distance in some given time, then I focus rather on my movement, on breathing. My vision is not, my parallel vision, the side vision is not that clear, and it focuses, and I'm not paying that much attention later when I run longer distance or when I run fast and my body's doing some hard physical activity. As I usually run in the nature, there are not many sounds, I'd say. I can hear birds usually because I run near woods or in the fields, so these are mostly the only sounds I can hear, and usually there's some wind that blows, so I can remember hearing these sounds while running. When I run in the city, of course I usually hear cars or people, but I more kind of focus on the visual input in my brain.
Normally I run with headphones in, because I just find that helps a bit. I used to never do it because I thought, oh no, that wouldn't be for me. So yeah, be aware of just, cars, birds, or, just general noise. But I think, yeah, like I say, if I'm in the zone, it just sort of goes into background noise. With the music on, I find that that obviously you can't hear much other than that, so that sort of just helps me channel a bit of focus. I mean, I'm not necessarily paying the most attention to it, but it's just a bit of rhythm, like BPM, that sort of helps just finding a rhythm.
I always find I kind of run in rhythm, in meter. It's a really weird thing. My dad's the same, and I kind of try and switch it occasionally. I find that really meditative, and I guess the sensory perception seems to get kind of put to the back of the mind almost, and I'm just focusing on that, which is why it's relaxing. I feel that I'm more aware of sound as if it's internal, weirdly. That's bizarre. I guess it depends how long I've been running for as well, because I find at the beginning I'm very much aware of my environment, and then kind of less so as I get more into it.
I have a particular way of locking into my breathing, which means that once I've locked in, I can kind of don't have to think about the running at all anymore. So it means I can look at whatever I want to look at. I'm always super aware of background noise, well, what I call background noise, so like rubbish lorry reversing or something, or just a hum from a building fan or something. Car horns especially, because I have an addiction to pitching everything as well. So if I hear a car horn and then I hear another one, I'll be like, oh, that was a minor third between them.
Hello. One please.
Currently, I'm undertaking a research project, Sound Runner, that investigates and develops a dynamic sound and music making system that adapts in real time to a runner's performance. I'm working with a sport and exercise psychologist, and we've just completed an initial pilot study. The other voices that you're hearing in this work come from the runners that participated in the study.
Check 1, 2. It's the 21st of February, 2022, and this is the epilogue to this piece that you've been listening to. So I'm out on a short run on a trail not far from where I live, South Manchester, getting close to the banks of the Mersey River. The river's been really high. I'm recording this in what I assume is probably a narrow window in between winter storms that have been just hammering the UK with wind and rain. So the trails I'm running on right now are flooded and a bit treacherous with mud. And the sun is poking out occasionally, which really does lift my spirits. I wanted to get back out on the trail to record the last bit for this piece. All the other narration I had recorded of myself was done in studio, aside from the sounds of me running on trails and through spaces and all those sorts of things. But I wanted to sort of close the piece with speaking some words while I'm running. Felt like it's something I needed to do. And it's been just over 2 years since I started my Sound Runner project, when I first recorded the other voices, the other runners that you've heard throughout. And a lot has happened, of course, in this period of time, the least of which is worldwide pandemic, COVID-19. They really did impact upon the pattern of my running and to some extent the quality of my running. That said, I did manage to run the 2021 Manchester Marathon in October, and I had a really amazing time doing it. It was an amazing day. Weather was fantastic, support was fantastic, the buzz. You know, it was almost as if people were runners and supporters, and the city was just bristling with excitement and energy, you know, given what we've all lived through. Well, that's it. I'm gonna head home. I'm hurtling over puddles and mud bogs, and I'm just gonna carry on. And I'm gonna just keep on this path as a runner. Hello, little birdies.